Alrighty then. It's another day. It's another middle of the week. There's 52 instances of this every single year, and we're happy to join you on this version. It's a Wednesday. It's Both Coast Bias. It's Jonas Nordman in Los Angeles, Hollywood. Aaron's in Orlando. Their only song comes from the Book of Mormon, which is a great play if you haven't seen it. Culture yourself. Oh, yes. Big fan in the background there of Aaron's. Which one was that, Aaron?
That was Whitley. She got spooked because the mailman came by.
Oh, well, that makes sense. That's
this
very
is
on
typical.
brand for a dog.
Well, Jonas, this dog in particular has the most paranoia maybe that I have ever seen in a dog. This dog is constantly on lookout because she thinks something is closing in on her and is going to get her or us. Meanwhile, my other dog could just not care about anything.
So what you're saying is the first dog, do you remember the scene in the first Star Wars, like the very first Star Wars, where in there was the trash compactor and the walls are closing in? She would not do well, or that's sort of what her life is. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. She just feels like things are constantly closing in on her. Meanwhile, the other one, the only thing that dog wants to do, and I'm kind of worried about this, Jonas, and it's something that has come up over and over again, but I think my dog, Salvi, which is this little 25-pound miniature Australian Shepherd.
Yeah, you could really launch her around.
Yeah, for people who have never seen her. I think she's developing some aggression, some bloodlust, and I'm a little worried about it. So just to kind of go into this long story that's probably going to end up going nowhere. When I let
about right
her,
for our show.
Yeah, exactly. When I let her out to go to the bathroom, she has started this new thing where she will nip at Whitley's heels. She'll like run out, she'll get out first, and then she'll wait for Whitley to kind of come out, and then she will attack her. And then she'll go for her legs. But then another thing that she'll do is she'll grab a toy from inside and she'll run outside and she'll run the perimeter. Mm-hmm. But while she's doing that, she'll be barking and acting like she's trying to break this toy's neck.
Okay, that's a little intense. But that doesn't seem like a new thing, because as diehards of this show probably remember, going back a year or so, I've been to Orlando a couple times now. I've stayed in Aaron's exquisitely decorated home. It wouldn't be an episode of Both Coast Bias if we didn't talk about Aaron's decorating skills. And even when your first dog, or R.I.P. to Luna, we miss her every day.
Pour one out for her.
I will actually. Here we have a YouTube channel, people, so you can see that I'm not actually going to pour something out. But go to YouTube and search Both Coast Bias. But I don't want to do your dog dirty like that. That's what Salvi did to her as well. Like, she would wait at the door waiting for Luna to come out, and then that little feisty son of a gun would nip at her. So this is sort of just who she is, isn't it? It's not really a new thing.
It is. Well, the trying to break toys' necks is new. Just kind of like the nipping and the hurting thing wasn't necessarily a big concern. It's kind of and what she's gotten really good at, Jonas, and I'm sure most dogs do this, and my dog is not kind of exempt from this, but she will take a plush toy, and it's like she's trying to rip out the heart of this plush toy.
What kind of dog is she again?
She's an Australian Shepherd.
So it's a shepherd, right? It's in the name.
Yeah. She's like she's doing like some kind of surgical procedure on this stuffed toy where she rips out the squeaker thinking that it's the heart and thinking that she killed it.
Actually, I guess a shepherd should be a little bit kinder, right? So
absolutely.
Do you know the history of Australian shepherds? Is it they're purely just to keep the cattle or the sheep or whatever from getting too far, or do they actually have to battle other animals that may come after the herd? Because that would make more sense if it was in her DNA.
Yeah, that's a great question. I did do some research on the breed before I obviously invested in two of them. Now, people who don't understand, my dogs are both rescues, so I did not go out and buy a dog. I rescued them.
2 Australian Shepherds, please. Your finest variety.
But the only thing that I had read on them was high energy dogs, very smart.
True.
They're herding. Yeah, the herding
clever.
is bred into them. Very loyal dogs. Did not read anything about bloodlust, which is what Salvi has. Which
I'm
is
just wondering.
Straight bloodlust.
Well, the her full name Salvador, or did you just go Salvi?
Her full name
like
is
her
Salvador.
Birth certificate.
Yeah, so she's got like four different variations of her name. Her full name is Salvador. I originally called her Salvi. Now it has just evolved into Salves.
Okay. Totally. We're lazy millennials. Cause yeah, as a herding dog, like as an Australian Shepherd, it is in the name. So she clearly needs to keep cattle, sheep, what have you, in order. Make sure they get back to the grazing pen, if you will.
And in her mind, Wit is just nothing but cattle.
No, nothing but fine beef that needs to be gnawed on. But it would make sense to me that they need to protect that herd from if a wolf or coyote or something, or maybe even a fox.
Ooh.
But if it was a big animal, your dog is going to get dominated. She's quick.
Absolutely.
She's quick, but yeah.
She couldn't actually hurt anyone.
Is that the standard size, though?
No, she's like a small version of a mini.
Okay.
Like
well, then that would make sense. It's in the DNA.
Whichever litter she was from, like she was clearly the runt of that litter. Because
she definitely has Napoleon syndrome, that's for sure.
Yeah, Whitley, who I don't think you've actually met Wit yet. Wit is what you would think a miniature Australian Shepherd would look like. She's about 35 pounds. She's stock. Where she lacks in kind of energy and playfulness and intelligence, she makes up with doofiness. So
okay.
I got one dog that just wants to kill everything and is pretty intelligent, and then I got another dog that we'll just leave it at that.
That's a nice way to call your dog a lovable idiot.
Exactly. That's why if you did not see her performance review video,
yes,
you should go check it out on my Facebook page.
So that's just on your Facebook, right? You didn't put that up on the Both Coast Bias YouTube?
Do you want me to upload it to the Both Coast Bias YouTube? I can if
people seem to get a kick out of it. And my cold-hearted woman also was like, "This is pretty funny." So I think if you get her laughing, it might be worth a shot. I want more people to see it. It's pretty funny with the captions and whatnot. See Aaron's dog, certainly on his Facebook page. You just look up Aaron Berlin. It's the one that looks like him. And maybe he'll add it to our Hi, Aaron. He waved, which you can also see on the YouTube page. Twitter, search for us at Both Coast Bias 1. I haven't been doing a great job with the Twitter, admittedly, because our Instagram is blowing up a little bit more.
Absolutely. Which, by the way, Jonas, we're almost to 100 followers.
Almost. I think we're going to have to do a big celebration.
We should do a big celebration. What should we do for our 100th follower?
Oh, man. We should do a list. That's what people love. People love lists. 100
list.
top ice cream flavors or
Maybe
something.
our top 5 Instagram followers.
Oh, yes. That's a great way to garner love amongst hundreds of people.
And then for every additional 100 followers we get, we can see who stays on the top 5 list and who gets kind of like bumped down.
This is really reminding me of MySpace with, remember, your top 8 friends? What a savage concept, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's so bad. My girlfriend and I actually started this last night. We're doing a daily ranking system of our dogs. So
1 or 2,
and then at the end of the week they get an aggregated ranking.
Okay.
And the top dog gets a special treat. So they are ranked from 1 to 3 each day of the week, and then at the end of the week, the one of them might get like a Frosty Paws little, which if you don't know what that is, it's like a little frozen yogurt for them.
Ooh.
Yeah. Whitley consistently comes in 3rd. What I'm finding out, and her.
Is that
dog,
why she got booted?
Yeah, her dog is typically her dog is typically ranked a little bit higher.
Now, you're giving them this frozen yogurt type treat. What if one of them's lactose intolerant? You ever think about that, or hasn't been an issue yet?
It hadn't been an issue yet, but I'm kind of worried about that.
Could be an issue. Are dogs lactose intolerant? Also, that's a whole different issue.
Quick Google search for that, and we can find out.
But yeah, the Instagram, if you want to be our 100th listener or 100th follower, excuse me, it's at Both Coast Bias. Although at this point, we figure if you've been listening consistently enough, you're probably a follower already. There is the email to get after Aaron. They might not be. It's bothcoastbias@gmail.com. And, of course, the YouTube channel that I've now just mentioned way too much over the first segment of the show. We've got a good show ahead of us. We'll get to Aaron's independent song of the day pretty soon here. We have a news segment when we get our sports on. It should be fun. Obviously, football is the main focus of everybody in the nation. We had a pretty football-heavy show on Monday, which I greatly enjoyed. Really broke it down.
I had fun with that. That was a good time.
I mean, look, the NFL, the NFL really has taken over the national landscape in America, and so we decided to contribute to that. Another huge injury today. I don't know if you saw that today, actually, for the Chargers, Aaron. Their tight end, Hunter Henry, who missed all of last year with an ACL, hurt his knee just on the game on Sunday, so he'll be out indefinitely as well. So the Chargers' injuries are still piling up, but that's not the focus of today. And then we have a little bit of both coast bias current events, perhaps if we have time, at the end.
Which we should tell people what we're going to start doing, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. We kind of talked about this beforehand, but what we're going to start doing is Mondays are going to be kind of like a recap of the football action that we saw on Sunday, a look ahead to Monday Night Football.
Tis the season.
Wednesday is going to be, am I getting this right, high and tight? Is that what we're calling it?
You beat me to the punch, but yes, high and tight, our baseball segment.
Yeah.
And as October rolls around, it might shift a bit with the focus, but yes, that's the thinking.
And then on Fridays is going to be more of a preview for the college games on Saturday and the NFL games on Sunday. And then we're also on this Friday going to talk a little Kansas football because they're playing on Friday night, which I'm pumped about. Maybe we'll bring the tailgate tourist on.
I think USC has a Friday game at BYU this week, so this should be actually a pretty interesting Friday show. Not to mention the review of the Thursday night game, right? So just laying things out for the folks, and of course Fridays include our Coast to Coast segment, where we like to preview different college towns.
Look at us having a format.
I know.
First of all, who even are we anymore?
Who are we? We're just a bunch of wannabes, right? Before we get to Aaron's independent song of the day, Aaron, I have to get to this shirt that you're wearing. It's cute. It's adorable.
I love this shirt.
And it's apparently from Target, so it's high class.
It is a Florida special Target shirt.
Yeah, this is about as both coast bias as it gets here. So
everybody loves graphic tees, and this is one of my favorite. It is so because Disney World's here in Orlando, we get special Disney apparel at our stores. And one of them is this Mickey who's chilling in a hammock with a drink, and it just says chilling.
Just chilling out. Come spend money, kids.
But I love this shirt. Whenever I wear it, I get comments on it, so I'm like, I'm going to wear it again. It looks best with a flannel over it, but it's not flannel season yet, Jonas.
No, but we're so close. Aaron, we are so dangerously close. Do you know what we're about to hit? I know it's already released, but do you know what we're about to hit?
What?
It's almost PSL season, baby.
Pumpkin
spice lattes.
You know what we should do on one of the shows? We should bring on a pumpkin spice latte and review it with a regular latte, and then we can just say, you know what, I'm so basic, I like the pumpkin spice latte.
Honestly, our review show between the Chick-fil-A and the Popeye sandwich, from what I understand, was one of our biggest hits of our new show season. Season one, if you will. Also,
one of our biggest hits was Nick from Orlando. How about that?
Real quickly, you didn't get a chance to bring it up on Monday, but I know you're like really champing at the bit. I do know Vampire Weekend. Speaking of the Devils, speaking of the Devils, Vampire Weekend. That worked out well. Didn't they just release another tour? Like these guys are insatiable.
Oh my God, it's amazing how much they're touring. So they're touring all the way through January of this calendar year, taking a 4-month break and then going back out on tour. And Jonas, for anyone who wants to do a meetup, they're playing in Kansas City at Starlight Theater on September 29th. I'm buying my tickets tomorrow. I will be front and center. So Nick from Orlando, if you want to come with, maybe you'll get back on stage.
Nick Massey.
Father of the Bride Tour Part 2.
Part 2.
Did you ever go to Starlight when you were in Lawrence?
No.
Starlight's a great outdoor.
Is it in Lawrence or is it in Kansas City?
It's in Kansas City.
Aaron, you knew the answer to that before you asked it.
Who knows? Maybe by September 29th of 2020, I will be living in Kansas City, Jonas.
Oh, teaser. All right, you may not really have to travel out there. Keep an eye out. Both coast bias could be one coast and a Midwestern, and no coast. No Coast Media, we love you also. All right.
But then it'd be so much easier to bring the tailgate tourist on then.
Oh, it'll be in-house. We're stalling enough. Aaron, let's get that song.
So here we go. One thing that I am excited about is the Chiefs' chances of playing in February this year.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who don't know, the Super Bowl is always played in February.
I've heard that.
And so one of the songs I chose today was something that came up on my Spotify or Discover Weekly. and it is by a band, Jonas, called Beach Bunny. Have you ever heard of the band Beach Bunny?
Beach Bunny or Beach Money?
Beach Bunny, like
I've heard the term.
B-U-N-N-Y.
I've heard the term. It's actually the swimsuit line, I believe, is how I've heard of it. But I haven't heard of the band.
So Beach Bunny is a band from Chicago, as most bands are. Love
not
Chicago.
a big beach city, but okay. I know they have the Lake Beach, but it's not the same.
They began in 2015 when they recorded for 6 weeks. That same year, they released their first EP called Animalism. And on that EP, Jonas, is a song called February.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like a fun, soft-spoken song, but the name of the song was something that I was like, I want the Chiefs to be playing in February.
Sure.
So here we go. That was the reason I chose it today.
Okay. Funny, Beach Bunny clearly has a very Greek member of its past members, Dimitri Panoutsos. A lot of vowels. I would say this guy is Greek.
Did you see the pictures of them, though?
Yeah, they're adorable. I love them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can see all these people.
They look like a good indie band.
No. This is when I think independent music. This is about the imagery that I expect.
Did you see that picture of the three of them just kind of like hanging out in the woods?
Mm-hmm. Is that the current group?
Yeah, like he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. That could be you. She's wearing overalls,
Definitely.
and then there's just this other dude staring upwards. Nobody knows what he's looking at.
That would
but
definitely
like
be you.
This picture is something here.
Yeah, no. They look adorable. I'm all
They
in,
do.
and I like the song too.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, Aaron, you ready to do a debut, a new segment?
Absolutely. Love debuting segments.
Maybe in post-prod here, as you are our technical and I think our artistic director. Maybe we add a little da-da-da-da-da-da. So here's our new segment. We're calling, well, you already ruined it earlier. It's called High and Tight. Football's getting a lot of focus right now, as it should be. We only get 16 games, right, and then the playoffs each year. But we are in the stretch run for the baseball season. I've got a couple headlines written down. Aaron's going to give his hot takes. We're going to get a little bit deeper into these. And hopefully hilarity ensues, although I doubt it. Aaron and I get pretty serious when we talk baseball. All right. I want to start with what happened over the weekend, and something that really shocked me, actually. Red Sox win the World Series last year. Most wins, I believe, in franchise history. All they did was win 108 games and essentially steamroll their way through the playoffs. And what do you know? They have a little bit of a World Series hangover. Pitching staff's a little bit tired, a couple injuries here and there. And you know what? They say, Dave Dombroski, GM, President, Baseball Operations, we're going to fire you. This isn't okay. I was shocked. What was your reaction when you saw this, Air Bear?
So to me, it wasn't that big of a shock, right?
Really?
So, yeah, well, because the thing that I have never been a huge Dave Dombroski fan, and I don't necessarily understand why he got so much hype, right? So let's go back and look at kind of his career path, right? He's been with a lot of different organizations: White Sox, Expos, Marlins, Tigers, and Red Sox. And that run with the Tigers, it was good, right? But also, how high was their payroll throughout most of that run?
Sure. He was big on paying the veterans and keeping the core intact. Paying the veterans a lot when they were already a little bit past their prime.
And perhaps the biggest problem with every single one of his runs has been, look, I get it. The more you hang on to prospects, the more you are likely to get burned, right? Like, prospects are capitals that are supposed to be spent to acquire you major league assets. But at the same time, like, you have to, there are multiple ways to build your roster, right? Like, there's four main ways to build your roster. Player development, scouting, free agents, and trades, right? Like, those are the avenues to success. And in order to have a successful team in any professional sports franchise, you have to have a mixture of all four of those things on your roster.
In order to be sustainable, sure.
Yes, and one thing the Red Sox have drastically lacked during the Dave Dombroski era, which began, I couldn't believe he'd been there since 2015. It seems much sooner since that.
I do remember when they hired him, so I did believe that. But sure.
But the thing that they had lacked overall was any kind of scouting and player development, right? Like, they had signed guys that were brought in under the previous regime, under the Ben Cherington regime. Like Mookie Betts,
Devers.
Xander Bogaerts, Devers.
The core of the team now.
Yeah, the core of the team was not brought in under him. What he did was make really bad signings, and then he had kind of like disgruntled players that wanted out, and it just wasn't a good culture overall. And look, I'm not a huge Red Sox follower. I am not a huge Red Sox fan. But even I could sense like a disconnect between the way that team was being ran and how I think its fans perceive the way that team should be ran, right?
So, counterpoint, if you will, and what's a good show without a little bit of discourse, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are pointing.
He won them a World Series, which was great.
Exactly. And I know the Red Sox, they hadn't won since 2013. Woe is them. But he did put together a juggernaut last season with that huge signing of J.D. Martinez. You can point
but
to...
he only signed him after he sat on the market forever, and they were the only ones that had money to sign him.
Hey, play the game, right? He was still there. Why not get a beautiful, pure hitter like J.D. Martinez? The contracts you can point to right now are probably David Price and... What's the other one? Oh, Nathan Eovaldi, who that was a bad signing after last season, after they wore him into the ground during the playoff run. But Price was an integral part, again, of that World Series run last season. And the other point that fans are making and the media types are the fact that the Red Sox now they've depleted their farm system, right, in order to assemble this team. Yes, that is unfortunate. And to your point, Aaron, their scouting and perhaps talent evaluation wasn't on par, because here's perhaps the more name brand players that they've given up in these trades. It was mostly for, let's say, Chris Sale and Craig Kimbrell, who's no longer on the team.
Well, and you do have to. So that is the one thing about Dave Dombroski that I've always appreciated, right? He is not hesitant to hold on to a treasure chest of prospects in order to go out and get a guy. He is aggressive, and he acquires the players that he thinks can make that team a championship caliber team. And look, they never would have got where they were last year without the acquisition of Chris Sale. They never would have been close to where they were without the acquisition of Craig Kimbrell. And the way that he supplanted that roster last year at the trade deadline, how many of those guys had huge impacts for that team in that series against the Dodgers?
Mostly Nathan Eovaldi, certainly.
Well, and then the second baseman, I'm blanking on his name.
Who, Ian Kinsler? No, Kinsler sucked. But it was more getting Steve Pearce, who won World Series MVP.
Pearce.
Yeah,
Yes.
first baseman. / DH.
Right side of the infield. I was right on that part.
There you go, Aaron. And think about the guys that he's given up. It was right at the top of the list is Yoan Moncada, who at the moment is finding his way with the White Sox, but is not the be-all world beater quite yet. Give the kid some time. He's going to have a decade-long career. Whether he'll be a multiple-time All-Star MVP type, yet to be determined. And then what he traded to San Diego was Manuel Margot, who at this point is, at the way I put it, and if you look at the stats and watch him play, he's just he's a poor man's Jackie Bradley Jr., which at the end of the day is a pretty good deal to trade a poor man's Jackie Bradley Jr.
when you have
for
the real
Craig
Jackie
Kimbrell.
Bradley Jr.
Exactly. So everything else is actually kind of dreck that they traded away. But it did empty their farm system. They clearly don't develop well, because those are the two stars that they've traded and are not stars yet. And Boston's impatient, like your dogs, and this is where we are. But this is their first bad season under him. They won the division 3 of the 4 years, including this season, won a World Series in dominant fashion, and they probably were going to be good. The issue is that they have to either trade or get rid of either Mookie Betts or J.D. Martinez right now, right?
Yes.
Which is bad news.
Exactly.
So it's yet to be seen. If the Red Sox go into a swoon for a decade, I won't be crying for them.
Well, and
Anyways.
I do think it was an issue that they couldn't get the Mookie Betts deal done this spring, right?
Well, they were hamstrung, right, by the Chris Sale deal and the David Price deal. So they don't, in their minds, they didn't have the money for it. Although there is no salary cap in baseball, just an imaginary luxury tax, which does affect you.
Well, it doesn't affect you much the first year, but the repeater tax, and then it just continuously builds on, and that's I can understand it for owners. Why would you want to pay that if you don't have to?
Supposedly the Red Sox, the model they want is big money, yes, but supplementing it with minor leagues. in the same model that we have here out west. And it has shown itself again last night as the Dodgers ended up winning their 7th consecutive National League West championship. Obviously, the first reaction from everyone around the country, and even most of the people here in town, is, cool, well, next month is what really matters. And look, I agree. For the Los Angeles Dodgers not to have won a World Series since 1988 is borderline criminal, but I think the front office, I think the team should be commended. You and I are Kansas basketball fans, diehards, and we certainly like to prop up that Big 12 championship streak, right?
Doesn't matter if you don't get to Final Fours, though.
No, it doesn't, but it's a lot more. It's not impressive because people remember championships, but the fact that it's a 162-game season, it's a long Big 12 season, right? And you are constantly the best at that, I think deserves some credit. So I will give them their props with the caveat of, all right, here we go. Now the real season starts.
Well, the thing about this, Jonas,
that's all I got to say.
Well, it needs to be commended. People know this, and people understand that baseball is a marathon. It is a 162-game grind. But what people don't understand is the game within the game, right? Which is the roster transactions. It's massaging the roster. It's using your minor league system to where it can benefit the big league roster at the absolute best possible time, right?
Yes.
And to have a run like the Dodgers have had over the amount of time that they have sustained this run with not only kind of keeping the big league roster in check and keeping their payroll in check, but then having the ability to supplement either the pitching staff, the offense. Guys inevitably goes down. They lose guys for months at a time.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's what's impressive about it. Like, teams come and go all the time. Like, the Royals won the American League Central in, 2015? And they had a good roster for 3 years at that time. But they couldn't get the division done because teams come up, teams go down. Very rarely do you have the same team stay at that level because of all the ebbs and flows of a baseball roster construction, right? Like, guys have peak years, guys have down years, guys inevitably lose a little bit of a touch in their swing. They go through slumps. There's just too many factors at play that can have that kind of effect on a team.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
That's what's really impressive about it. And not only that, but the managerial change that they went under, the front office change that they went under, it's been impressive.
Yeah, say what you want about Dave Roberts, bullpen changes. I think a lot of people don't tend to realize that a lot of the decisions he makes does come from the top on down. But this is now his 4th year. He's won the division every year. And the worst he's done is go to the NLCS in his previous 3 years.
And not to cut you off, but a lot of people want to rag on Andrew Friedman. If I'm not wrong, every year that he has been there, right, they have won the division. He got there in the winter of 2012?
I believe so. Maybe the winter after 2013 when they lost to the Cardinals in the NLCS. That's what I'm guessing. Or if he got there in 2012, then he began this run of championships.
So let's see. On October 14th of 2014, it was announced that Friedman had left the Rays, become the PBO for the Dodgers. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So
they were in the midst of their run.
Yeah. They won the division in 13, and then that winter they turned him over. Or no, it was after the season.
1 year later.
14. Yeah. So he has won it in 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Yes, and so 2017 was a team that won 104 games. 2019, this team will be a 100-plus win team again. He's done a good job. People sometimes criticize Andrew Friedman for maybe being a bit too tight on the belt buckle, right? And maybe not going and getting that huge free agent. A lot of criticism here at the trade deadline. There's a lot of revisionist history sometimes with, especially in baseball, right? Bullpen switches, this signing, that signing, this trade. I'm just trying to enjoy the ride. That's all I'm saying, Aaron. All right, good stuff. One last major headline. The Dodgers, of course, this season been fueled by their MVP candidate, Cody Bellinger. On the other side, in the National League Central, is MVP candidate 1B, 1A, depending who you ask, a guy who was on pace potentially for a 50 home run, 30 stolen base season, which I think would have been the first of all time. And that is, of course, the reigning MVP, Christian Yelich, who had really some bad news last night. Of course, he fouled a foul ball. off of his knee, and he broke a kneecap, which, geez, that sounds intense. And he's now out for the remainder of this season. So on the surface, yes, this is terrible for a Milwaukee team who made it to the NLCS last year, losing in Game 7, is in the midst of a really tough wild card and divisional battle. But I'll dig deeper in just a second why it's not that terrible for their playoff chances. But your first reaction when hearing that, Aaron?
It crushes me for all of the Milwaukee faithful, right? Like, I love supporting mid-market teams, and Milwaukee is at the bottom when it comes to small market clubs in baseball, right? Like,
it's weird you'd say like the Marlins, right? But they're a big city.
Yeah,
they just choose to be that way.
Yeah, they don't get a lot of opportunities like this, and I feel for Christian Yelich. I mean, look at this. He was having career years in on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, OPS plus, and total bags. His total bags this year were at 328 with nearly, played 130 games this year, and they probably have 17 to 20 games still left in the campaign.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, like, that's impressive. His on-base percentage was 30 points higher than what it was last year.
As a clear MVP, yeah.
Yeah, his average at the moment is 329, whereas his career high in average was 326. But so his total slash line this year, at that moment, was higher than any combination that you could go through in his entire career. So you feel for guys like that who've been putting together that kind of a campaign, and it was his second time as an All-Star. He played in 130 games, and to kind of lose that for Milwaukee, there's no way. That's going to be a massive blow to them.
So here's where they stand right now. And Christian Yelich is a Valley guy. Ever since he came up with the Marlins, us locally here in Southern California are always like, man, that's awesome to see a local guy succeeding like that. Him and Stanton, who's also a Valley guy, were in the same outfield. And they just killed the Dodgers every time they played as members of the Marlins outfield. Excuse me. So the guy's putting it together. He's a star amongst stars. A little bit boring, much like Mike Trout. But on the field, he's unbelievable. But here's where the Brewers stand. As we enter play today, they are just one game out of a wild card spot and 2.5 behind the Nationals, who hold the first wild card spot. They are behind the Cubs, who are within their division, so they probably play each other pretty soon here. And in the loss column, they're only 5 games back of the Cardinals, who have had a resurgent second half here and are leading the National League Central. Aaron, this is why the surface level looks a little bit worse than it really is. Here is the Brewers' upcoming schedule. They finish up a series against the aforementioned and pitiful Marlins. Then they do play the Cardinals this weekend. That'll be tough, but hey, it's still a chance to make up ground, right? Then they host the Padres, who are out of it for 4 games. They host the Pirates, who are hurting themselves. Did you see that article, Aaron? Felipe Vasquez and Jared Crick got in a fight, and Crick had to get finger surgery.
Oh, nice, so, yeah. Nice. That's always great.
So the Pirates are in really good shape. Then they play the Reds, the Rockies, and the season's over. So other than the Cardinals, they have a pretty cake rest of the schedule. Now, of course, who knows what the Brewers will be like without their MVP candidate, but could be worse. And should they make the playoffs, they probably won't do anything. But you got to get there to even find out, right? And I like their chances.
I mean, they made the National League Championship Series last year, so
yes, they did.
They made some noise last year, and this looked like a team that had the potential to make noise this year. Look, I'm crushed for all those fans in Milwaukee who thought maybe this was a year. You get hot at the right time in the playoffs, you get the right combination of starting pitching and bullpen power, which they do have. A lot of good things can happen. I really feel their president of baseball operations is David Stearns, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I really feel for him because he's the one who constructed this roster, and he's done a fantastic job with it, right? Like acquiring Yelich from Miami, and Yelich at that time was a good player, but nobody thought he was an MVP level player like he has been. Like this has been tremendous, and so now you start to wonder. So this is where it plays devil's advocate too, like what we just spoke about. Boston's now got a president of baseball operations opening. David Stearns, young GM, small market club, might be more inclined to take a look at a prestigious organization like the Red Sox. And again, this is all 100% just speculation. But if I'm the Red Sox, I don't mind making that call. I think he's one of the better young GMs in baseball.
They'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, and if I were also the Red Sox, I would call J.J. Piccolo of the Kansas City Royals. Another guy who's ready for a general manager opportunity. Or you know what? Why not just bring back Ben Cherington?
Or bring back Theo.
Oh, there's no way.
Could you imagine?
There's no way that's going to happen, right?
Is it Piccolo, or is he named after the instrument, the piccolo?
It's Piccolo.
All right,
It'd be so much better if he was named after a piccolo. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, we just got a message from reigning Royals GM, Mr. Piccolo, and once again he's just blowing hot air. Can you believe it? That wind instrument. All right, Aaron. There's a reason we call this high and tight. I got to make you a little bit uncomfortable here. Make you really shiver in the batter's box. As of right now, it is September 11th. Do the Brewers make the playoffs in a wild card spot or a division? Make your call.
Okay. So hold on.
I looked up the Cubs schedule because that's probably their best chance. Cubs also are playing the Padres, who they lost to last night, and then they also host the Pirates and the Reds. 4-game series against the Cardinals, which will be tough, and then Pirates, and then they go to St. Louis to finish the year. Ooh, could you imagine?
So as of now, they're a game back of the second wild card, which the Cubs have at 77 and 67. They're a game back in the loss column. They're a game back in the win column too. So, I'm gonna say no, they don't.
Oh,
I'm gonna say no, they don't.
Who are your wild card teams? Because there's a bunch of teams within striking distance.
Well, so that's the interesting thing, right? Like when you look at just the wild card standings in the National League, there are 5 teams within 3 games of the final wild card spot. You have to go all the way down to the New York Mets, who have kind of fallen off after their great run in the middle of the campaign.
Yeah, they're hit or miss.
I don't think Arizona's going to make it. I think the final wild card spot is between Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and the Cubs. I think the Nats are in it, which, by the way, how good of a year are they having after kind of like their early struggles? Usually that's a team that starts hot and then kind of fades. They've done the opposite this year.
Do you want me to be totally honest with you as a Dodgers fan?
Yeah.
I'm assuming the Dodgers hold on to that number 1 seed in the National League, which isn't a given, by the way. The Braves are only 4 games behind them. And with the Dodgers having clinched the division now, who knows how the rest of the year will go. But Washington's scary, dude. Washington is really scary.
Yeah, they're good.
A pitching rotation of, remember, keep in mind they will have the wild card game. But Scherzer, Strasburg, and former Dodger killer when he was a member of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Patrick Corbin. Ooh,
yeah.
Aaron. And they have 2
bad,
MVP-type players in Juan Soto and Anthony Rendon. That's a tough team, baby.
So I'm going to say Cubs are – I think it's going to stay how it is right now. I don't think there's going to be any change. I think the Nats are going to take the top wild card. I think the Cubs are going to come in at second. I would like Philadelphia to get that second wild card. I would love it because I want to see Philly fans back in the playoffs. Like
Harper versus Washington also.
Yeah, I think there would be great drama, and I think Phillies fans deserve that moment, and I think the Phillies – are good enough to be in the playoffs. There's no reason that team should not be in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, when you look at the roster of names, right? Real Muto, Hoskins, Segura, Harper, Aaron Nola. Yeah, that's a team that should be in the playoffs. But, maybe it's their manager, Gabe Kapler, who is definitely the fittest man in baseball. Or maybe it's just a culture thing. I don't know. May I just quickly have a bit of a fanboy moment here?
Sure.
Just trash talk someone here at the end of our show. Remember right around the trade deadline when we were like, hey, so what should the Giants do? They're right there at the wild card chase. Are they really that good? Should they start trading Bumgarner and Will Smith, their closer? Or are they really going to go for this? What do you know, Aaron? Mid-September, and the Giants are now 7.5 back of the wild card and out of it, and didn't bolster their roster at all.
They're talking about a Johnny Cueto return. How about that?
I think he came back last night.
He did. He had a few rehab starts with what's their advanced A affiliate in San Jose? The San Jose Giants. Yeah, San Jose Giants. Yeah, had a few rehab starts with them, and then was back on the big league club. God, that's sad with Cueto, right? Like they paid him all that money, and he really hasn't performed for them. Yeah.
I'm really sad for the Giants. Shall we do some real quickly here? I know we're up against it. I don't know if you have any stories, Aaron. A Florida man story. Takes you 2 seconds to research it. I know. I do want to quickly give you a story that plays into our sports talk show here, but also was interesting what happened at LAX, if you'll allow me.
Always.
So, a collection of fake NBA championship rings that, if real, would have been worth more than $500,000 were seized by Customs and Border Protection officers at LAX
Oh my
on
God,
Tuesday.
why?
The 28 rings were found as officers examined a shipment to Arizona arriving from, you guessed it, China. The rings were found in a wooden ring box, apparently to be sold as a collection. The best part of this, Aaron, and counterfeiting is not okay, fans. You should never counterfeit. But these rings look like trash. Like, who is getting fooled by these rings? Like, these don't even look anything like like the Celtics one from '08. It's supposed to have like the clover in it. It doesn't even have the jewels in it. Someone was about to be had. I almost wish they had sold it to them. They deserve it, those losers.
That would have been fantastic. So the only one that I have today, Jonas, is so remember when Hurricane Dorian was barreling towards Florida and people were concerned and they were losing their minds about it and everyone was doing things?
Remember, yes.
Well, one Florida man thought that it would be a great idea because he was worried about the condition of his car being outside. And for people who don't know the architecture of Florida homes, like a lot of them do not have garages. Instead, we have carports.
You have a garage.
I do have a garage, but my garage is a converted carport to a garage. Yes.
Okay.
So a lot
Best
of them
of
are
both
built
worlds.
like that now. But like the older homes just had carports. And so this man's home had a carport, and he was concerned about how he was going to protect his smart car. So what did he do, Jonas? He drove his smart car through his double doors, which are French doors, and parked it in his kitchen. Like, how does that even happen?
Paints me like one of your French doors. So it was the smart door. So it was itty bitty, right?
Yeah.
I hate those cars. I do. But like, you're not getting any joy whatsoever from the driving experience. Like, I'm not a petrol head. I'm no driving enthusiast, if you will. But living in a car culture here, you got at least I know, right? Enjoy your drive.
Upset about all this.
You got to at least enjoy what you're in, right? And a smart car is just not going to do that for you. Anyways, that's a good story. I appreciate that one. Bacon, eggs, and gasoline. Although, are they electric?
They are. They are.
So, bacon, eggs, and a dose of electrocution. All right. Good stuff today, Aaron. We got our baseball fix in. Hopefully the fans did too. Friday, we're going to get our pigskin back on. We'll have a coast-to-coast segment on one of your favorite college towns. Send in suggestions, if you will. bothcoastbias@gmail.com if you want to hear your college town featured on the coast-to-coast segment. We will preview the upcoming week's games. The Rams are hosting the Saints. Nothing happened there last year. Should be real tame. And, Aaron, love your shirt. Love your presence. Just love everything about what you offer as both a man as a co-host.
Aw, thank you, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Enjoy the middle of your week, everybody, and we'll talk to you for what should be another fabulous, frisky Flannel Friday.